Go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Room Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Room Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Room Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping in. Want to get straight to the point here. If you're watching, thanks for watching. Like this, comment on this, share this out if you will. If you happen to be a Republican in the state of Minnesota or a Republican in the 7th Congressional District here in the state of Minnesota, I'd love to hear from you. So like, dislike the video one way or another. It doesn't really matter to me. I am appealing to the 7th Congressional District here in the state of Minnesota leadership for the Republican Party. I'm appealing to you because many of you took offense to the video that I put out. I believe it was Tuesday, wherein I reflected the information that had been given to me by people who believed or felt that there was, at the very least, some questionable behavior happening and maybe even some corruption taking place. And I can understand why that would be frustrating to you, but I've gotten really no answers in this. Now, I'm not going to say no one's interacted with me. I did have a conversation with a gentleman by the name of Daryl Thurn. He took great issue with my comment and with the content that I put out, wherein I showed the email in that video that was sent out to all of the candidates saying they would only be allowed to speak on Friday and that they would be better served going to other events on Saturday. The email says that. I could show. In fact, here, let me show you that real quick. You can see this right here, ladies and gentlemen. It says that. That's the highlighted area was sent to me by someone who received this email. That's what it says. You will not be allowed to speak on Saturday. So you can have tables there and have them set up, but you'd be better served going to other events, going to other conventions on Saturday. I also shared a video where it was 6 seconds long, but it was a delegate of the convention that, should we say, saw Scott Jensen recording and shot video of Scott Jensen recording because he felt it was improper. Now, in fairness, Daryl did take issue, and in our interactions, and he was very upset that I questioned the validity of the leadership. He was very upset that I called it corruption. He made some valid points that it was the convention chair who ultimately made the decision, and I asked one question of him in our interactions, and this is the last I heard from him, was that he never responded to the question that I asked. That since you guys made the rule that no one was going to speak on Saturday, but the convention chair has the ability to override any rules that you make, do you not think it would have been wise? And I'm paraphrasing. Do you not think it would have been wise at that point to step in and say, hey, we told the other candidates not to be here, so it may not be a good idea for you to allow this to happen? And while Daryl, speaking to me as a representative of the 7th Congressional District of the Republican Party, for the Republican Party, stated that it did appear that Jensen was a recording against the rules. His only response to that ultimately was not to say he was going to call Jensen out for it, but that he wanted to know why the other guy was recording too. See, this is deflection. And so I messaged Daryl yesterday, and I said, I'd like to do something if you're game. I'd like to have you on to point out my misperceptions so we can talk about the incident and why so many people were reaching out after the CD7 convention and telling me about it. I don't want to be your enemy. I mean that. And I do. I told him in the thread of the conversation in the group that this conversation was taking place in, I told him that I had messaged him and was basically encouraging him to look up to come and find that message. Nothing. He did not respond to the question I asked, and he did not respond to the statement that I made that I messaged him, and he hasn't seen the message. Now, maybe he's busy. He's a congressional district party leader for the Republican Party in Minnesota, so he could be incredibly busy this weekend. He could have been incredibly busy yesterday. So here's my appeal to anybody in the Minnesota Republican Party who is in the leadership structure, even the chairman of the convention from last week in the 7th Congressional District. If you would like to explain your side of the story and how this broke down, I would love to have you on. I want you to correct me, but I also want you to be prepared for some pushback. And here's what you have to remember. There is a resurgence or an investment, if you will, of people coming into the Republican Party who have been Republican in their culture and their social leanings and their fiscal leanings. They've been Republican their whole life. They've been conservative their whole life, but they've never gotten involved until recently, especially over the last 2 years. And they're angry because they feel betrayed by the Republican Party. And so they don't know the ins and outs and the Robert's Rules of Orders and stuff. They just know that they want change. And the old guard, many of you who have been involved in the party structure for years, know all of these things. And none of you are sitting down and explaining any of this to anyone. You're just operating as if everyone knows these things, that the convention chair can make any decision he wants. They don't know what it is to call the quorum. They don't know what it is to call the question. They don't know what it is to challenge. They don't know any of those things. They just know that they're seeing somebody make a decision that counters what has been said, and then they see candidates breaking the rules that are applying to them, but not to the candidates. And it reeks of either corruption or favoritism or rules for thee, but not for me, which is exactly what has awakened these people in the first place. This is why they're fired up. This is why they're coming out. This is why you say, let's start challenging some of these people that appear to be rhinos. In your response, instead of saying, I'm going to call out Scott Jensen for violating the rules. Why did that guy record Scott Jensen while he was recording? How dare he? So this is an open appeal. I don't want to be your enemy, but I'm not going to retract what I'm saying just because you say it's not happening. Over and over and over again, we see this throughout public sector in public entities and in that governmental structure. My friend Mike from the podcast that I host with him, Veteran Nation, we joke about it often. Military gets an accusation of something that they're doing improper, and they investigate themselves. And of course, then at the end of the investigation, they find that they've done nothing wrong and everything was above board. And it's the same thing with law enforcement. We've investigated this situation, and we've determined we've done nothing wrong or nothing untoward took place. So, if you are in that leadership structure of the Republican Party for the 7th Congressional District, If you are the chair of the 7th Congressional District for the Republican Party convention from last week, I want to give you a platform to come on and explain and let the people hear what your reasoning is. And let them hear that you're going to reach out to the Jensen campaign and you're going to chastise the Jensen campaign for violating the rules that were enforced for everyone else. That everyone else was following until that one individual turned around and watched Jensen shooting video of Kendall Qualls speaking and said, I'm going to get some documentation of this so that no one can accuse me of lying. And that was the gist of the conversation I had with the individual. Because he knew no one would believe him if he just came out and said it. So there's your opportunity, Minnesota Republican Party, 7th Congressional District. My platform is yours. I will be civil. I will be decent. I will be gracious to you. I'll ask questions. I'll push back. And if you can come with reasonable explanations for what happened that day, reasonable explanations for what happened that day and why no one thought it might be a bad idea to allow people to speak, or to at least approach the convention chair and say, hey, this might not look good. And you're willing to say, yeah, we need to call Jensen out for that. I'll let you come in and do that. And I'll push back if all you come in and do is, well, that's just the way things go. So the opportunity is yours. I know in your eyes I'm a nobody, but at least I'm talking about this stuff instead of sweeping it under the rug and acting like it's all going to go away and it's no big deal. Because right now, that's how a lot of people in the party feel. They feel like the party leadership is no better than the left, no better than the Dems. And we've got to change that. We need transparency before the party burns down. It's on you. You all know how to get a hold of me. tcpearson@protonmail.com. You can find me on Facebook. You all know how to where to find me. You can find me on Twitter @RobeRegiment. I'll wait to hear. I will wait to hear. Something tells me I won't. I want to be wrong, but something tells me I won't. Boy. Prove me wrong, please. Please prove me wrong until next time. Or until later, actually, because SITREP is coming up in a little while. So until later. Sic Semper Tyrannis.
We are going for lift off in T-30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at